In 2011, in Tunisia, Egypt, Libya, authoritarian governments fell to tide of populist democratic forces. 2 years later, and the situation has grown far more complicated. The countries of the Arab Spring aren't just wrestling with how to build democracy. As we're seeing in Egypt right now, they're also dealing with an age-old clash between secular and religious forces. Morsi and his allies in the Muslim Brotherhood seem to represent a new tide taking over the Middle East of populist, democratic, Islamist politicians. 1 year later, though, the Egyptian opposition grew furious over what they perceived to be the Islamists' attempt to consolidate power rather than build consensus. A new constitution, a new political structure, and a new pathway towards free elections will have to be forged. The problem now, though, is that you have an entire embittered camp feeling as if their legitimately won political power has been taken from them, and there are many growing fears of further violence. In Tunisia, which was the birthplace of the Arab Spring, the country is still under a state of emergency and there are still protests on the street. In elections for a constituent assembly, a once banned Islamist movement won the majority of seats. But a secular president remains in power. Many of the more secular inclined in Tunisia fear the growing influence of Islamist politics on the country's society. The continuing divisions between these two camps may lead to further political instability. In Libya, elections have been held, but the power of the central government in Tripoli is weak. Tribal and regional militias that banded together to fight Gaddafi remain often at odds with the central government and have led to various incidents of violence. There are also increasing fears of the spread of a radical militant Islam in a country that's already teeming with weapons. The bloody conflict in Syria, which for so long looked like the anomaly of the Arab Spring, is fast becoming emblematic of the deeper divisions troubling the Arab world and the Middle East. The world will be looking for the politicians, the army brass, and the activists across the political spectrum in Egypt to set a more peaceful precedent.